Hello, everybody. I hope that you're well. A huge welcome to this little mini series that I'm just about to start recording on all of the centers that you find within your human design chart. So, your human design chart is made up of 9 different energy centers, and I'm just about to share my screen just to show you very quickly what I am referring to. So, this is a chart which you can pull for free on my website. So if you go to effiemos.com, you can enter in your details and just pull a free chart. And it will come back and look very much like this. So completely branded. And these different shapes that you see throughout the chart are energy centers. Now, when you see a shape coloured in, it doesn't matter what colour it is. If it's fully coloured in, that's what we call a defined energy centre. And this means that you've got consistent access to that energy, and that through that energy centre, if you meet somebody that has the matching centre that's white, so like this, then it's likely that you can influence them, okay? So the most important thing to take away from this little summary is that when a shape is coloured in, it's defined. When it's white, it's undefined. So when you have an undefined centre, it means that you have inconsistent access to the energy that this centre offers. And also where the centres are white, you're most likely to be more vulnerable to conditioning within those centres as well. And if you have a centre that has no coloured numbers, like this emotional solar plexus centre here, then this is what we call an open centre. Okay, so if it's fully open, it means it's white and there are no coloured numbers in it at all. So it's open. So you're going to really probably experience an awful lot of energy coming from this centre and be influenced by your environment, the people around you. In this particular case, the person with this chart, because it's the emotional solar plexus, this is where your emotions sit. And this means that this person is very sensitive and very empathetic, amongst a lot of other things. So you can see here, for example, with the sacral center, you can see there's some colored numbers. So this is an undefined center. And again, here's the will center. It's colored in. It's a defined center. So before I jump into what all of these different centers mean, and we're going to look at the full expression of that center. So the least optimal expression and the optimal expression of that center, right? So you can understand the range that those centers offer. Naturally, those centers are also going to be influenced by the different numbers within the center. And these different numbers represent a gate. Within the gates, they hold a gift. Now, when we teach human design, and when, like, for example, I'm explaining human design, I'm taking the chart apart, right? So I'm going to, for example, be talking about the head center, which is this shape that I'm talking about here, but when you then go through the actual chart with somebody, so maybe you go and see a coach, maybe you have somebody who knows human design, maybe you book a reading. For example, I offer readings. What we do is we put the chart back together again for you and give you the story that your chart is telling you. So, from a starting point, I think it's really nice to be able to understand all of the different elements and understand what all of the different symbols mean, what the numbers mean, things like that. But the true gift lies when you're able to put it all back together again and, share the magical map of your story, right? And as I always say, human design is only ever going to give you that magical map. How you fill in the rest, the gaps between that magical map. So the lines between the story is always completely up to you. Okay, so very quick overview. This is the head center. This is the ajna. This is the throat center. This is the identity center. This is the will center, sometimes called the heart center. This is the emotional solar plexus, so your emotional center. This is the sacral center. This is the root center. And this is the splenic center, so the spleen, okay? The other interesting thing, and I won't go through this in this video, is that each part of each center is also related to a part in the body. Just something for fun, just to show you what I mean. This is the will center. This is defined. This is the spleen center. You might find that if this person is under pressure with resources, they're feeling, a little bit of stress. Maybe it's because this is channel of the entrepreneur. They're feeling a little bit stressed about business or anything like that. Because it's connected to the spleen and it creates fear, this could actually give somebody a bit of a poorly tummy. So just to give you an idea about how things are all connected, it's fascinating, and I can honestly say that that's particularly true because I have this channel and in this way as well. Anyway, so for today, I'm going to concentrate in this little video on the head center. And the head center is all about needing to find inspiration. So I'm just going to talk about this particular shape here. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you. And I am going to look down because, as always, I have lots of notes. So firstly, the head center. We have 30% of the population have that center defined, colored in, just as you saw in my example, and 70% of the population have it undefined, right? So it's white in 70% of people. Now, the most important thing to understand when it comes to the energy centers is that when it's colored in, so when it's defined, you have consistent access to that energy within you. Okay, it's not outside of you. It doesn't depend on your environment. It doesn't depend on who you are with. That energy is accessed from within you. Okay, so you have that power within you. When the center is undefined, then you are going to experience that energy in many different ways, depending on the environment that you're in and the people that you are with. And that is also an amazing gift. One isn't better than the other, right? The rest of your chart will help you to be able to use the particular centers that you have been given. You know, the gifts will be able to help you use those centers in the right way, as will your energy type. So whether you're a projector, manifester, manifesting generator, generator, or reflector, right? Everything is all a piece of a puzzle. When it all comes together, you literally have this beautiful, perfect story for you. Okay. So when you have an undefined channel, undefined means that you are going to experience the energy from your environment and other people around it. You'll not only experience it, but you will amplify it. And I always say you're 10x it, right? You're 10x it. So you may likely feel, for example, with the head center, it's all about inspiration, but it's also a pressure center. We have two pressure centers within the human design chart. The head is a pressure center and the root is a pressure center. Now, with your head center, it's the pressure to know. It's the pressure to want to know things, to have ideas, okay? But the root center's pressure is the pressure to do. So you might find, for example, when with an undefined root center, that you feel under pressure to complete things. You feel under pressure to complete your to-do list. I have an undefined root center, and I can tell you now that I can't leave my desk unless I've completed my to-do list. It's one of the it's the midway point of the least optimal expression of that center, right? To feel under pressure to do. Okay. So it's quite interesting when you sort of start to unpick all of this and you start to see kind of what that scale is for each of the centers. You can see where you're maybe peddling stories that aren't right for you, that maybe you've been conditioned, or maybe that you have learnt those stories from other people and that they're not true to you, right? And I find this incredibly therapeutic because it gives me permission to let those stories go. And I really hope it does the same for you. So the head center is how we get inspired. This is where we connect to universal source energy. It's where we have inspired thoughts. And really, the idea of the head center is to kind of hold those thoughts, right? Because when they pass through to the Ajna center, that's where we research them. But what happens is that we tend to try to rule our life from our head, right? We try to make decisions from our head. I mean, we've been told our whole lives, right? Use your head, use your mind, use your brain, right? Not very helpful, because those ideas are meant for other people. Your authority, your strategy, your energy type are how you make decisions and align with a life that suits you, right? And those things can be felt in different parts of your body, but your head is all about those inspiring thoughts and being able to get in. You know, if you're an undefined center, you'll get inspiration from others or other people around you, depending on who you're with. You might find that if you've got an undefined center, head center, that actually a certain group of people or certain person you hang out with, you find particularly inspiring, and it just really fires all of the important like little starry signals up in your head, or you know, it sort of sets them all on fire and you end up feeling really energized and really inspired by them. And it could be that they have a defined head center and that they have consistent access to that energy, and so being near them, you then naturally get inspired and it will then trigger that thought. And also when you have an undefined head center, you'll also experience it like you can sift and sort, right? Because you can experience it in many different ways, depending on who you are with or depending on the environments that you are in. You can sift and sort. You can decide what feels right, what doesn't. If your head is defined, then you've got a consistent access to that energy. Now, I have a defined head, and it's really funny because my whole life people have told me to stop overthinking things. My head is always too full. When I used to have Reiki, I used to get told, oh, Effie, you've got like a really full head center. When I had reflexology, I was told you've got a really full head center. And at some point I was like, oh gosh, am I the only person that has a full head center? But that's just how I've been designed. I'm fully designed to have a defined head center, and that's fine. It just means that I'm going to have lots and lots of different ideas. But those ideas I use to support others. And I'll often be the person in a meeting with a client, for example, saying, well, what about this? What about that? I don't think anything of it. Because I've always done it. I think I'm just being helpful, but actually that all comes from having a defined head center. Okay. The pressure from the head center is to drive you forward, right? And what it does is it then pushes the energy through the rest of your centers. So depending on your other connection points, where your head is connected to, will depend on how that energy then flows through your chart. But think of it as like a starting point, and it just comes through your head and then it will start to flow into your body. All right. The other thing about the defined head center is that it's here and designed to answer the deep, deep questions. So you'll often find that the deep thinkers of the world, the people that can really contemplate stuff, the people that just want to be able to answer those kind of questions that a lot of people don't have maybe the patience to kind of persist with, right? Persist with those like thoughts and those questions to finally get that aha moment. Most people kind of just like will go, no, and get distracted and go do something else. So you'll often find with the defined head centers, they've got the ability to hold that energy and be able to really, really concentrate. And if you have one of the, I think it's the right variable, the right strategic variable in your chart, the little arrow, let me just quickly check it's right. Yeah, it's the right one, bottom right one, right? If you find that one, that bottom right facing the chart arrow, if you find it's pointing right, that's also a very strategic mind. So now if you've got a defined head and a very strategic mind, what you're going to find is that this person can not only contemplate really deep things and can not only have like be a well of a source of knowledge in terms of ideas and thoughts and pondering questions and pondering maybe even some of life's deepest questions, but with that strategic mind, they're going to be very laser focused. They're going to be very, very focused in on that thing that they are concentrating, and nothing else is going to distract them from it. And that's a perfect example of the defined head center and then using another part of the chart to almost piece the pieces of that puzzle together. And it starts to give you layer by layer this amazing view of the gifts that you hold. Okay. When you have an undefined center, and actually this can also happen with a defined center. So just because you have a defined head center, yes, you have access to consistent energy around it. Yes, you've got access to consistent thoughts, but you can also trip yourself up with, unhelpful stories. Okay. So if we're looking at the expression, the least optimal expression versus the highest optimal expression for that particular center, at the highest optimal expression, you've got someone who's connected to source, can accept inspirational ideas and thoughts, allow it to kind of flow through their body so that they can contemplate it and think it. There's somebody who's a source of inspiration for others and will outwardly be able to, depending on their throat center, be able to share those ideas, right? And they're using it to help others. They're not using it to run their own lives, okay? But if you find on the least optimal expression, this is often where an undefined center will kind of experience this, because they get muddled, like with thinking that other people's stuff is their own because it's open. And that's what we mean by open centers can condition us the most, because literally you can take on other people's stuff, right? So I think it's really helpful to know this. Is that, when the least optimal expression is that you're then looking outside of you for inspiration. Right. So rather than looking inside of you and tuning into those inspired thoughts, those inspired ideas, you can be looking outside of you for that. Right. And not trusting your own inner wisdom. The other thing as well is this pressure to feel that maybe you don't have all the answers to your questions. You're not meant to have all the answers. The idea of that center is that you will then use your ajna center with your head center to research those ideas, to really contemplate those ideas. And then as the two centers work together, you know, you will find the answer to what it is that you are exploring, that you are thinking, that you are looking for, right? But you may need to kind of get inspiration from others, or you may be able to hold the energy within yourself and just kind of connect to your inner knowing so that those ideas pop up a bit like light bulbs, right? So please don't get muddled with, when I say looking for others, I mean looking to others to constantly give you ideas, feeling you can't come up with ideas yourself, right? Because we all have the ability to have inspired thoughts. We all have the ability to have inspired ideas and to be able to share them. We have all the charts, but we just express the chart differently. Okay. But what you don't want to do is defer your power to somebody else. Oh, I never have any ideas. You tell me. I'm not sure. You tell me. And it's the classic, like, what do you want for dinner? What do you want to do tonight? Where should we go? Right? Really, really simple questions. But actually, what you're doing is deferring it to somebody else. And that's what we mean by looking outside of yourself rather than looking your innate knowing, rather than using your authority to help you make the right decisions and your strategy to understand how you interact with other people, right? And if you're unsure what your strategy about your strategy or authority, there are some other videos on this channel to also help you. Okay, so feel free to have a look. The other takeaway for least optimal expression of the head center is to feel constant pressure to understand things. And I can honestly say that I sometimes express this and I catch myself. Sometimes my head hurts, like literally I'm thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking it through so much. I've not given myself a healthy space. I've not given myself time away from it. I've not stopped that entire thought process. And sometimes I can literally give myself a headache about it because I am thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. And really what I need to do is create that space, go change my environment. I like valleys, so go outside. You know, I love being in the country. That's my environmental space. Love seeing the sea, so vast space for me. Again, that's another part of my chart. So I've overlaid that onto me, so I can live the best expression of my story. You know, and when I'm able to take myself out of where I am to one of those spaces, I feel completely re-energized. And those kind of like really hard headaches, those huge pressure I'm feeling to get to the bottom of it, to solve it now, just dissipates. And I allow myself to flow with life. And the thing is, I didn't even realize that was a thing. I didn't even realize that that was something I was expressing until I started looking at my human design chart and understanding what the centers and how they played out in my life. And this is why this work is so important. You know, even if you do nothing else with it, it's just to understand the stories that you are telling yourself, but how these energy centers are also playing out in your life. Okay. And the other area as well is to seeking advice or answers from other people. So again, looking outside of yourself, expecting them to have the answers rather than aligning with your own decision-making authority. So for example, if you're a generator and you have a sacral authority, that's going to be your aha and sounds. Okay. If you're a manifesting generator with your 3420 channel, then that might be repeating the last word that somebody said. If you are a projector, it's going to be waiting to be invited is your strategy. You might have a splenic authority. So you're going to have in the moment impulses, right? If you need to be able to trust your decision-making authority, and that's how you make decisions about your life. It's not through your head center. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump onto the next video where I'm going to be talking about the Ajna Center. Please let me know if you've got any questions about the head center. I would love to see who's our 30% who has a defined head, our 70% who has an undefined head, and how you experience this. You know, this is not a one size fits all, right? This is not just because I'm saying this stuff. You may experience it in a very slightly different way. Excuse me. So just have a think about that, right? And if you love this video, please make sure you click like below. Do subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and share, of course, always share. And I hope to see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.